My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. Our special guest tonight is Silk Nine lead singer and guitarist Anthony Leone. How you doing tonight, Anthony?
I'm real good, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, let me ask you, where is the band based out of?
We're located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And is that where you're originally from? I was curious.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I grew up here. Been here my whole life.
Oh, great. So, what's the rock scene like there these days?
Well, honestly, it's picking up. Our local area has been, kind of known for, more cover bands and tribute bands and things like that. But here in the last few years, there's been some, really strong original music.
Oh, that's great.
And we've been able to, pick up a little bit ahead of steam here, and I think it's headed in the right direction.
Now, I understand, Anthony, that you're the founding member of the band, and that you're actually like the sole remaining original member from the band. So, first of all, what year was the band formed, and kind of talk about why you went through some of the lineup changes, if you don't mind.
No problem. Well, it was founded in April of 2013.
Okay.
Myself and the original lead singer, Jamie Rohr. And, to make a long story short,
yeah.
I can go on and on. We've been, the band's been alive now going on its sixth year. So there have been quite a few line changes.
Uh-huh.
And the way I typically explain it is, it's hard to keep a two-person marriage together, let alone a four-member band together, with everybody's heads heading in the right direction. And, like I always say, four wheels, always heading in the right direction is always better. So, everybody has different ideas on what things should be. For myself, I kind of made it a point where, I don't want to sound like a dictator, but it was my idea. I had an idea of how things should go. I presented that to people. It was accepted at first, but maybe later on they had bigger and better ideas. And no harm, no foul. But I had to stick to my guns and just go the path that I thought was best. Because if it failed, it was my fault.
I hear you.
If it succeeded, it was my fault. So there's, like any business, there's a risk.
Yeah.
And I had a kind of a plan on how I wanted to do things, how I wanted to handle certain things, and I just stuck to my guns and let everybody know that if that wasn't for them, then they were more than welcome to open up their wings and handle their situation the best way they felt.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, I think the cool thing about that is that it's still early in the band's career. That you can go through that kind of a lineup change now. Now let me ask you: did you ever have any concerns that we're just gonna put the band to an end and we'll start out fresh? Because I think it's kind of cool, like I said, that you decided to kind of move on and just find kind of the right players to play with. Because let me ask you: obviously you mentioned you had another singer originally, and you're a guitar player. I'm assuming that's what you're primarily known as. Talk a little bit about your decision to kind of become a frontman, because I think that's kind of a cool thing that you're singing and playing guitar.
Well, I don't know where you got that info, actually, because I'm not the lead singer.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
Just guitarist.
Okay.
But after Jamie left the band, I really sat back and thought, I needed to do kind of a clean sweep, and I explained that to the guys that it was time to make a good run at it, and I thought that I needed to make how can I explain? I don't want to sound like an ass, but I needed a little jump start, if that makes any sense.
Rejuvenation. It sounds like what you're saying is kind of, you had your vision, so to speak, and that vision wasn't kind of going the way you wanted it to, so you kind of said, okay, this is the time to really push my vision forward.
Exactly. So what I did was, I knew some people that I've been really wanting to jam with. Scotty Boyd is now the lead vocalist.
Oh, okay.
I reached out to him. He's very well known in our area. He's got a fantastic voice. He's been around. He knows what I needed, and he knows what to do. There's no coaching needed done there. So it worked out really nice. We have a really good writing experience together, which is really hard to find. So that once that fell into place, I reached out to a guy that I played with in the past on drums, Justin Walker. Him and I had always had a good relationship. Whether it was up and down, we were always very cordial to one another and had mutual respect for one another, whether we were arguing or not.
Yeah.
And then the last guy, that I really wanted to kind of solidify things was an old friend. His name's Charlie Dog Hughes on bass.
Okay,
and,
okay. I like that.
Guy's got a huge bass sound. He knows how to fill the gaps, and for a single guitar player band to have a guy that knows what to do, when to do it, when to sit back and ride it, and when to fill it in, man, that takes a huge load off my shoulders. And this album, Retribution, that we created all together, just shows that each and every one of us put a piece of us into this thing and made this thing Exit the Pain, the first EP was great. I really am proud of that. And I would say that this album was like Exit the Pain on steroids. We took it and notched it up. We made the hooks a little hookier. We made the melodies a little catchier. We made the sound a little bit bigger. And I think that's what you have to do, and that's what you have to strive for when you're writing songs and EPs. You want to make that one, the next one, better than the last, which, the better that you get, the harder that becomes. So it's a real chore.
Yeah, in a word, the best way to describe that is progression. You want to, you always want to kind of keep your fan base, but you want to keep progressing. You don't want to, unless you're AC/DC or something like that, you don't want to, continuously put out the same album, so to speak.
Yeah, no, and I understand. I never want to stray too far from our sound, I say, because there's, one band that comes to mind is like 3 Days Grace. You hear a 3 Days Grace song, it's them.
Exactly.
They've got that sound, and that's them. So I wanted to really stick to the roots, but again, just take that and put it on steroids and make it a little bit thicker, make it a little bit bigger. Maybe someone said to me the other day that this one's a little darker, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with rock and roll and darkness, right? It's worked.
Yeah.
A lot of years.
Once upon a time when the grunge scene was real big, that's what all those bands were doing, like doom and gloom. But I'm kind of with you, but it doesn't have to be doom and gloom all the time. But whatever rocks your socks off, so to speak. But let me tell you, I love the title Retribution, and I'm kind of guessing that's kind of a title you kind of came up with probably based on what you've been through, like you said, keeping the band going, and we're still here, and this is kind of our statement for 2018. Now, I seen that currently you got like a 5-song EP of this, but eventually it's going to be released as a full length. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know how that's all going to go. That's not my call.
Okay.
John Marhefka over at RFL gets kind of the final say on how he's going to promote things, and he tells me what he needs, and I go to work. But the most of the talk that we've had is preparing for a full length in 18.
Okay.
He had mentioned grabbing a couple songs from Exit the Pain, maybe a song or two from Retribution, and then 4 or 5 new songs, and having kind of like a greatest hits with new material on it, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. That's kind of cool, because for people like me that are just discovering the band, it allows people to say, hey, this is kind of what we did there. Now let me ask you, as far as the full length, the older tunes, would you put them on the album, just as is, or are you going to have the new band re-record them?
No, it would be new. Whether I don't know how we would do it.
Yeah.
But I know for sure, vocally, Scott would sing all the songs. We would make this band.
Okay.
I didn't really think of it. To me, if it was my choice, I would say let's go in and just cut them. Let's start from scratch and let's just go cut them so that the album sounds
kind of fresh. That's kind of my thinking. I would think too that this is a band now. These are songs from our past, but the current lineup is going to cover some of that material. This is what we did before, and this is what we're doing now. I think it's really a great way to introduce the band. And I got the best compliment I can give you, Anthony. I was listening to the 5 songs on Retribution, and the best compliment I can give you, when you hear a new band, you're always, for the first time, you're always trying to think, who do these guys sound like? Now, I can honestly say, to me, you guys got your own really fresh original sound. I couldn't really say that you guys sound like Megadeth, or you sound like Aerosmith, or whatever. You guys really have your own thing going, and is that something that you really set out to do?
Well, yes. And one of the first lines of the original bio that I wrote was taking what I liked out of the 90s, then taking a lot of my influences from the 80s, and then taking that and kind of throwing it into a pot and stirring it up, and coming up with something that was melodic, that could be heavy at times, that had a hook into it. Maybe you're standing at the computer one day and you just start whistling that melody. That's what I wanted to create. And I think we did that. to much. Scott's was a big help in that. I would come up with some mumbles sometimes and say, "Man, I'm hearing this," or and I'll whistle or hum it to him, and then he would start singing, and I'm like, "Yeah." And I'd hit the record button, and by the end of the night, we had something pretty catchy. So I wanted to keep it memorable, and I think that's huge with songs that especially on our level. Like if we can make it memorable and make people keep wanting to listen to it, we have a better shot because we all know that the industry is saturated. There's so much good music out there. So how do you set yourself apart? And I think that's how we're going to do it: is be different, keep it on the edge, and make it memorable.
And then at the same time, stay true to who you are. I mean,
yes.
Like anybody listens to the 5 songs on Retribution, like I said, I'm hearing this band for the first time. It doesn't sound like you guys are trying to be a copycat band, that you're trying to be a clone of anybody else. You're just doing what you do. And you listen to these songs kind of like you're saying, Anthony, and to me it sounds like these are songs that are written from the heart. And that's what I really dig, because you talk about any great band or musician. I mean, you look at anybody from like Tom Petty to The Who. I mean, these are guys. Their songs are played on the radio almost every day. And like in The Who's case, almost 50 years later, their stuff is still being. Pete Townsend is a great writer for simple facts. He knows how to write a hit song. He knows how to write a catchy tune. You put on any of those Who classics, and they tell a story, and it's more than just and each song kind of stands out on its own, and they really do tell a story. I love listening to songs like that. They take the listener on a journey, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny you just said that, because if some people have already picked it up, but I'll clue you in on it because doing this interview. But if you listen to each song in sequence, not that we went out to do a Operation Mindcrime type thing, but if you listen to how the songs are written and how they're set up on the 5-song EP, it takes you through a nice story to where you kind of snap in the end. It goes to that thing where you're kind of feeling a little bit down, but you're ready to come out. And then you come up to the Shattered and Stained, where it's getting a little rougher. And then it takes a little dip. And I don't know, and Erase My Memories, and then Damage is just is where you finally reached your limit. And it's like how am I going to deal with all this? How am I going to let this affect me? Is it gonna put me down, or how am I gonna get through this? And that's kind of the climax. So it was a really cool 5-song EP, the way that we came up with this and the way it all kind of progressed. So again, not a concept album, but if you listen to it in a sequence, it could sure be thought of as one.
Now let me ask you, when you were writing the songs and you were recording the stuff, like you said, it's not that you necessarily set out to, well, this is our concept album or whatever, but as you were writing the songs and recording them, did you, obviously it wasn't intentionally done, but did you kind of start to realize yourself, wait a minute, these sounds like, as I do these songs, they sound like they're somewhat connected. I mean, did it kind of dawn on you as you were doing them?
Not really, no. It was. I don't think it was until we got into the last song on EP, Damage, to where I really thought, like, man, this is a progression. These songs are a progression, and now it's just like we're just going to explode. And and that's when I thought, wow, this is a really cool journey that we're, even though it's a short one, I think it's really cool how these all kind of set the next one up.
Okay. Now let me ask you. Obviously, as a songwriter, you know what these songs are about. But would you prefer to let people know what the songs or what the story's about, or would you rather listen to the stuff and kind of get whatever they get? Because as a songwriter, I imagine it must be cool to have people tell you, for example, hey, I listened to your song, man, and it reminded me of this or that I went through in my life, and you're like, well, that's not what it was written about, but hey, if you got that, great.
Well, I love that question, and until I teamed up with RFL, and we discussed on interviews what things should be said, and that I was told a lot of people like to know what the songs are about. I needed to expand on that a little bit. In the past, I've never answered the question because of just what you said. I wanted each person to listen to it and take in what they thought it was about and use that however they wanted. And I think that's a really cool thing. There have been people that come up to me and, off the old album, a couple songs like Embrace, and, they were telling me about, hey, this song meant this to me, and I'm thinking, like you just said, like, I didn't think of that. It could definitely mean that, but
different people, right.
It wasn't in my mind when I was writing the lyric to that one. So it's great to hear different input from everybody. And I always explain, like, it's like poetry. Like, I took a poetry class in high school so many eons ago, and there's really not a wrong answer. It's how you interpret the words of the writer and how it makes you feel. So as long as people are getting a feeling out of this, like you said, and it's moving them in a certain way, and they can connect with the lyrics, or even, it doesn't really have to be all of them, because we're not a country band. I'm not trying to write a sequential story, but there are lyrics or lines in the song that all mean something, and if you can grab that, then and it helps you, or just it makes you connect with it. Then hey, we've done our job.
Yeah, and I could see as being the guy that writes the songs, how you could even not even set out to do that, and just because of the way you write or whatever your mood might be at the time, how all the songs could end up kind of even accidentally connecting with one another. And it's interesting because me, like a lot of people, I tend to favor music that has lyrics and vocals, just because it's easier to kind of comprehend what the song's about. But if you put on like some of these guitar type albums where it's instrumental, like guitar music, for example, like Joe Satriani or something, even though the music you're listening to doesn't have any vocals, it's more emotive, if you know what I mean. You could tell if maybe this guy is pissed off, or maybe this guy was feeling sad or something, because the music doesn't even necessarily have to have a vocal. You can kind of get off on it's more emotive even if it doesn't have lyrics, which is kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
Now let me ask you, Anthony, is there any plans to kind of are you guys going to be doing any live shows to support the Retribution, or right now you're working more towards the full-length album?
No, I mean, right now, because it's hard to plan, when you don't know what's going to happen. So if we had a crystal ball and we knew that Retribution was going to be accepted the way it has, maybe we would have planned a little bit better. But that doesn't bother me. I'm loving that everybody's really liking what we did. RFL has been working very hard with a promotion team to get us out on the East Coast. We're just trying to find the right matches, the right bands to meet up with. We're doing our best, and it's a dirty business, so there's a lot of business behind it. We can't just go and drive around for free. Obviously. And money's a big factor, because we need to get there. We need to have gear. We need to, if gear goes down, what do we do? There's a lot of factors in that. It's not just like, hey, throw your shit in the car and let's go.
People, that's why.
Some logistics and some planning involved to make the most and stretch that dollar as far as we can.
Again, that's why it is called the music business now. And the music business being what it is, let me ask you, are you guys selling actual physical copies of the CD, or is it just being released digitally right now?
No, we have both, and we had just a quick story. We had a real soft release where RFL produced. I think it was 50 or 60 of like a commemorative disc, and all it was the artwork, and then the artwork on the disc.
Wow.
And we had a show. We actually played with Warrant out at a place called JROCK here in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And typically, I'll sell 10, 15 CDs. No big deal on a show. We blew through them all.
Wow.
I actually had John Marhefka of RFL. He was in his car digging out of the CD player in his brother. So we took everybody's that everybody had. We signed them all. We sold them all that night. And I thought, boy, that was a really special evening for us. So now we have the actual disc where it has some different artwork on the disc. It has all the names of the songs on the disc. So we're selling, to answer your question, yes, physical and also digital on iTunes. I think if you have if you're an Android user, it's on Google Play, Amazon, CD Baby, Spotify, all those sites. But if you go to rfl.com, and I think it's when you go to rflrecords.com, just click on the Silk 9 drop down, and there's a ton of bundles there. You can do like Exit the Pain Retribution in a T-shirt and save like $5.
Wow.
You can do like a T-shirt in Retribution and save $5. We have like everything. I think for like everything that we ever recorded, we have download stickers.
That's cool.
There's 2 download stickers, 2 albums, I think a T-shirt, sticker, like the whole ball of wax for like $25. So that's where you want to go. I mean, if anybody hears this and they're looking to get that,
it sounds like
your best deal.
It sounds like it because that's the thing that I'm one of these guys that believes if you put the music out there and it's decent enough product, people will buy it. I mean, for example, I went recently in Best Buy. I tend to like to go around, at least look at the latest releases. They usually have at least a decent display of the most recent releases. But sadly, one of the guys in the store told me, this come July, he's like, can I help you with anything? Because we're kind of downsizing here. We're not going to be selling CDs come July anymore. But hey, we'll be happy to order something for you, online and have it sent to your house. Which is really sad because that's about the only place to get CDs still. And,
you just broke my heart, Jason.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, I think if somebody, for example, is a Silk 9 fan enough, that they will buy it through the band. They will go to the band's label. I'm kind of one of these guys. I believe in supporting the musicians. So if that's the one thing about people downloading music, I think it's cool if they do it legally. But a lot of people don't realize that this is what you guys do and this is the way you make your living. And I think people, got to kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, and it's tough because every dollar that we make, we all have day jobs.
Of course,
but every dollar that we make isn't, the way we look at it, it's another dollar towards recording another song. We just had our big CD release party, and we made enough at that party to go and record another song in the studio. So, I mean, that's what we strive to do. Like, that's why we're doing this. We want to get our music out there, and we just keep, just like a beginning business, just if you're starting a business, you can't really take a draw until you get things going. So everything you make in those first few years, you reinvest and you try to build. And that's, I said this on an interview previously, but I'll say it again. I'm very proud that this band has always stood on its own 2 feet as far as financially. We've been able, I've never asked members for money out of pocket to record. We've taken it, we've reinvested it, we've gone in and we've done it, and we've released good products. And this one just, stepped it up from the last. But, again, we did it standing on our own 2 feet, and we went out and we worked for that the old-fashioned way. We invested it and we recorded it. It's so hard to hear that Best Buy's not going to have physical CDs, because we really struggled with that argument, and there was pros and cons. I went and I leased a vehicle, and I brought Exit to Pain with me. This is before Retribution was done, to just listen to the stereo system in there, And on the way home, I can't find the CD player. I am going nuts. So I call my salesman and I said, "Hey, where the hell is there a CD player, like in the back in the trunk or something?" He said, "Well, there hasn't been a CD player in a Jeep for the last 3 years. Everything is Bluetooth or a flash drive." And I thought, oh my! That doesn't help. That doesn't help us at all.
It's funny you say that, because I had a similar situation where I went to buy somebody a gift. I was going to get them. They needed a car stereo, and same type thing. I thought, okay, I'm going to get her a CD player. She needs this for a car, and same type thing. We don't have CD players, but you can get an MP3 player or whatever. And I'm like, oh wow, that's not what I want. Wow, but it's very sad, because I'm old enough that I still remember. A lot of these kids today will be like, "What's that? A record store?" I remember when they had Tower Records and stuff. And what's odd is you can still go to Japan and all these European countries. They still have record stores and stuff. But here in the U.S., they just, it's a very rare thing if you can come across one.
Yeah, and so that our dilemma was, what do we do? Do we run off 1,000 physical CDs? When you can't play them in the car. The sound guys at the board now, they bring me a flash drive.
Wow.
Where are you playing this at? In your house? Well, most stereos now are Bluetooth. Everything's downloaded to your phone. So it's, it was a really tough decision. So we decided to cut back on the number of units and, get it on iTunes and hit all those digital download sites and try to use the best of both, Yeah,
and as far as selling, I guess, I mean, if you run out of copies, if you guys are making bank, so to speak, on the new CD, you could always probably reprint some more. But that's one way to do it. But it's very sad that technology, as great as it is, sometimes it kills things like that. Because I love still having a physical CD to look at. Oh, this is who produced it. These are additional players on it. This is who wrote the songs. it's just a very sad state of affairs. That's why, a lot of bands, as you probably know, there are several bands these days that they made the decision because of the music business being what it is. We're just going to live off our catalog of music. We're not going to make any new music. Nobody's buying CDs. That's why I really love bands like Silk Nine, because I gotta tip my hat to you guys that you could just live off of the one album or whatever, but it's cool that you guys continue to put out new music.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have new products, then people forget about you, or you become stagnant or bored. So the only way to eliminate that is just to keep giving them something fresh in their ear to listen to, because right around the corner is another band with a new song with that's good, it's great. So you've got to keep in the ears, or you lose your fans.
Yeah, and I think if you guys continue to put out music like what you're putting out with Retribution, people will support the band. And I got to tell you, I listened to Retribution the other day, all 5 tracks, and I can honestly say what I dug the most about all 5 tracks is you could pick probably any one of those 5 tracks and release it as a single. They all really stand out on their own, like we were saying, and just great sounding, well-written tunes. And that's what I think it takes to be successful for any band. You got to have the songs. If you have crappy songs and nobody's going to really listen to them, that's obviously a bad thing. But these 5 songs really, and honestly, I can tell you this: my biggest complaint after listening to those 5 tracks was this: man, only 5 songs. I want a full-length album. I want more than 5 tunes. But you leave them wanting more. That's good.
Well, in all honesty, I can't take credit for that. That was the strategy behind the record company. John's not a dumb guy. He knew what he wanted from us. He even, reached back into Eggs to Pain and said, I want Shattered and Stained redone, and I want 4 new tunes.
Wow.
And I said, yeah. So we, that's no problem. We, I demoed them, let him hear the demos of each. As long as he endorses it and he's backing it and he's invested in it, then we're recording it. And he came down to the studio the first, when we first started recording Retribution, the first song was Knife in My Back.
Yeah.
It was like the first time he got to hear it with Justin playing the drums to it, and in the live kind of fashion where he's in there cutting drums and the music's playing to the monitors. He's like, well, it was like, whoa. Because now you could hear it now. Now you hear all the parts, all the pieces, the puzzles putting together as you're watching. And it was a really cool experience, I think, for everyone.
Cool. And now, do you have a home studio that you record the stuff out of, or do you go to an outside studio?
Well, we do a combination of a few things, because Scotty lives about an hour 15, hour 20 from me. Justin's about an hour and a half from me. Charlie's the closest. He's only about a half an hour. So we're a little bit, spread out. So what we do is we use technology to our favor. And what I will do is I will cut a rough guitar track of an idea. I'll probably mumble a few lines on it, maybe if I just have a melody, or maybe I might have a chorus and nothing else. And then I'll shoot that over to Scott and kind of get his input. And it was funny because one of our pre-production sessions here at my house, and that's what we do next, is Scott will come over here with me, and we'll work on melodies and lyrics and just get a good outline of the song. He had an idea, as he's driving in the car, and he had about 100 notepad, like sticky pads.
Okay, wow.
And he had 7 words on each sticky pad, and we were just blowing through sticky pads as he was laying down the vocals. So it was kind of a funny night, and we had a really good time. And I don't remember what song that was, but it was a really good night. We had fun just laying down the vocal tracks. So that's what we do. We come to my little home studio, which is nothing major. It's Cubase, a set of monitors. I got my baby bottle, vocal mic. I got some plugins that I use, for guitar and such to get some ideas down. And we dim the lights and go at it. But then we'll take that pre-production, and then we go into the studio, and the guy who I always call my 5th member, his name is Mike Ofka, and his studio is Innovation Studios down in Steubenville, Ohio.
Wow.
And we'll take those rough tracks down to the studio, and I'll meet Justin down there, and then Justin kind of recreates the song. He might have some ideas on the dynamics, I always say, whether he can speed it up, slow it down, whatever he wants to do. And then I'll come back home. And I'll relay down all the final guitar tracks. I'll have Charlie stop over my place. We'll lay down the bass tracks. And then I again go back to Steubenville, and I meet Scott there, and we do the final vocal tracks in the evenings.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how you feel about labels, Anthony, but after listening to Retribution, I would kind of say the band's overall sound. You guys kind of got a hard rock, elements of metal, alternative, modern sounding music. But see, kind of what you're talking about, like you guys did a show with Warrant. I mean, that's a good example because like when people think of the band Warrant, they typically think of the song Heaven, and people think that's all these guys, did. But they do a lot of their other stuff in their catalog is a lot heavier. And see, I could see a band like Silk Nine. You could go out with the Warrant. You could go out with maybe the Red Hot Chili Peppers because you guys have such a diverse sound.
Well, that's a heck of a compliment, and I appreciate that. And obviously would welcome any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've played with a bunch of national acts, and we've always got along well. We've always got a handshake, nice job, and I thought it seems like our music fits well with no matter who we're with. And
that's what I was saying. Yeah. It seems like
because it's not too heavy.
Yeah.
But it does have that edge. So I think it's kind of in that pocket where we can pull off just about anything.
Yeah, that's cool because it really opens up. It opens up your options. Now, as far as when you guys were recording, I was curious. You mentioned being in the studio. Now, when you're actually laying down the tracks, do you record like as a live band where everybody's in the same room, or does everybody do it the modern way, where each guy kind of goes in and does his part separately?
Yeah, that's how we do it separately.
Okay.
It's always been like that. It was like it's just very with everybody having day jobs.
Yeah, and you said everybody's so far apart.
Yeah, 5 days in a row and go in there and play live.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of stuff when we can, and that's like in the evenings over at my place when we have to. Drums we can't do here, so we're in the studio. We schedule a day. I think we scheduled 2 days for Justin for Retribution. He cut the 5 tunes in 2 days.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of work, but it's when you got a budget, you
do what you do. Yeah,
you got to go to work.
And it's amazing that it sounds that good. If you know what I mean. I mean, it's amazing to know that. I imagine just going through a process and writing the tracks and going in there and recording each track. For you guys, it's amazing. When you get that final product, the final CDs in your hand, because it's amazing to know that a lot of this stuff is just being sent through the email and stuff, and everything's computerized. But you put this on and you never know that the guys were all in the same room recording it together. It sounds that good.
Well, again, that's a heck of a compliment, and I appreciate that. And it's just a matter of knowing what you have to do and figuring a way out
to get it done. To
do it and get it done and keep the quality as high as possible. And that comes down to Mike too over Innovation. I mean, he's a great engineer. He's very patient. So there's been times where I had to go and scrap things and do them again and things. I mean, that's just part of the process. But you can't get upset. You got to just do what needs to be done. And at the end of the day, like he says, this is your legacy. Don't leave this half-ass. If this is your legacy, so you're going to be listening to this more than anyone.
Yeah.
When it's faded off and down, you're going to be the guy that pulls it up and go, man, I did this. And you don't want to go, I wish I would have done this different. And I can honestly say that we all listen to stuff that we didn't go, boy, I wish I would have done that. But this one was different. I mean, I can't really say that I would go back and change much because I was pretty happy with. I mean, there are things I would do differently as a guitar player, but I can't dwell on that stuff. My buddy told me, dude, it sounds great. Write it on the next song, put it in the next song. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're saying, the one-word progression. I mean, I'm sure that there are things that you'd love to go back and redo, like you're saying, but on the next album, it's going to be that much better because you guys have been playing together that much longer, and so that's what it's all about. And if you kind of think about each time you put an album out, it's kind of where you are in life. It's kind of like a chapter of your life, right then and there. That's where you are in life.
Yeah, again, but you're hitting all the good points.
Yeah.
We just finished pre-production of a new single, and it's kind of the song, and I don't want to give too much away because it's changed so much. But we had a nice journey, and this one's going to be kind of an exclamation on Retribution. It's going to be like it should have been After Damage on the album.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be a very good follow-up to what we just did.
Wow. And now, I was curious, do you guys have what would you consider like a Silk 9 vault? Like, do you have recordings left over that didn't necessarily make it onto the past albums, and you go back and okay, this didn't make the last album, maybe we can recut it for the next one or whatever and revisit stuff?
I have tons tons and tons of material saved that just never went anywhere. Yeah. For whatever reason. Who knows? And the funny thing is Knife in My Back was one of those songs that never went anywhere. But then just one day, I was just in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And I came down and I threw that on and I changed it up quite a bit and I started this a new type of. I started doing some different things. It started coming together, and actually I got together with Justin on that one, and it started to take form, and Scotty just took it and blew it out of the water.
Yeah, the cool thing about having that much unreleased material, again with the music industry being what it is today, like if you ever decide, we're going to put out an expanded edition of the CD or whatever, you could throw some of that stuff on as like bonus tracks. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of bands are doing, and I kind of dig that,
Absolutely. I'd like to say that every song that we write is going to be, a hit, but it's good to have some songs, on the B side too, and just a good, well-rounded library.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I got to ask you right away. I don't know, without even knowing what it means. I just love the name of the band, Silk Nine. I mean, it kind of grabs your attention. How did you come up with that?
Well, that's a funny story. When I first started the band, I kind of knew that the four guys that I put together, it wasn't going to last forever. So the name comes, originated by trying to put things together that don't belong.
Okay.
The first gig this band did was just a cover gig. We had I'd asked three other guys if they wanted to get together, do a 45-minute set at a local bar opening up for Tough.
Wow.
And just for fun. It was all covers. And that night, everybody walks in. I had T-shirts printed up. I had wristbands, stickers, and everybody's like, "What is all? Your guys are a cover band, and you got merchandise." Well, I knew that it wasn't going to be a cover band. I knew that the next step was going to progress into original because that was just me. I was a songwriter, and I wanted to keep that going. But this was a good way to step it up and to start out. And we made a little bit of money that night that went back in the band. It helped fund some of that stuff and pay me back for the initial investment and things like that. So, so that's where the name comes from. It's an oxymoron, putting two things together that don't particularly match.
I love that. I love that. And you could kind of see the future of it. Like that was where the band started, and this is where you ended up. So, and that's cool that you got to do a show with Stevie Rochelle. Now, I'm sure, like a lot of people, now he's the mastermind behind also. That Metal Sludge website, where when he first announced that, people learned he was the mind behind that. A lot of the fellow musicians kind of turned on, man, you ragged on my band and this. But from what I understand, he started that site because the way his band was treated years ago by the music industry, which is kind of talk about retribution. I mean, that guy's done what he's done, and he's still around doing it.
Yeah, and Steve's really cool. I got a chance to meet him, backstage and talk to him, and what a great guy,
Yeah. And now, before we wrap this up, I got a few more questions for you. Obviously, you're a guitar player, so I was curious. How old were you when you first started playing, and did you take lessons, or would you consider yourself a self-taught player?
Well, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm like a mishmash. So I picked up my first guitar when I was 7 years old. And I was playing acoustic guitar, learning the Beatles. I remember my books were like the Beatles. Then I had a book with all the Grease songs in it from the first Grease.
Wow.
And that's what I would play each I think it was Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock was my guitar lesson. We go in and would, play the songs. And I lost interest pretty quick. It just felt like, there was no excitement there for me. So I put it down. And I was over at a friend's house one night, and we were just walking around, and I heard a live band playing, and we stopped in, and I got introduced, to an electric guitar, electric guitar, and it was a Gibson Flying V of all things, and they taught me Smoke on the Water.
Funny you should say that. I was going to ask you that because I'm told by guitar players typically the two most riffs that people want to learn when they're first learning is Smoke on the Water and Stairway to Heaven.
There you go. So mine was Smoke on the Water. And I just remember leaving there, so overwhelmed with electric guitar, and, went home and begged my mom for an electric guitar, and, obviously the first initial response was no, but I beat her down enough where, I got my first electric guitar, and then shortly after that, I was introduced to the distortion pedal. And, and then that changed my life forever. All I've been doing was, I'm a tone chaser now.
And I'm assuming, it sounds like you're a guy that, like as much as you enjoy, maybe covering up, doing covers and other people's material, that probably when you started like writing your own tunes, that's where you really fell in love with doing your own music.
Yeah, and that's where I really found home. I remember being in a band, and we were playing the 3 sets, and we were playing, and it was just utter brutal nonsense for me to come down. And remember, back in the day, back when I was, this is quite some time ago, I sat in front of a cassette player, rewinding it 100 times to learn the song. I didn't just go on YouTube and watch 10 other people, play the riff. So, I'm playing a bunch of songs that, by ear. Or you get Guitar Magazine and they have it tabbed out, and I just couldn't do that. Like I'd lose my mind.
It's boring. It kind of makes it boring, like you're going to school. I mean, you take a guy like Eddie Van Halen, as amazing as a player as he is. Probably people freak out people to learn that the guy cannot read a lick of music, but look at what he's done with a guitar.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's how I was. I mean, I could read a little bit of music, but not much. Can't read much at all anymore. But it's all kind of play by ear feel. I mean, I dabble in like the modes and things that fit my style of playing. You got to know kind of where you're at. But if somebody told me, like I know guys that can transpose music in their mind. Like, hey, play that in C sharp. And, let's try that in F. Like, I don't know, man. Like, that's not me. Like, if I learn it in this key, then that's the key we got to play it in.
I mean, there's some guys that they can do everything like really technically precise down to the note. And that's great for what it is, but then at the same time, there's something to be said for a guy that can just kind of, go off and do his own, thing and kind of improvises and does not sound like every other guitar player out there. He's kind of got his own thing going,
Yeah, and it's so funny. You hear so many stories about guitar players, and I'm a huge George Lynch fan. Like that's that's like I got a chance to actually play with George, and it was like the highlight of my music career.
Wow.
But I saw him in an interview once, and they were talking about. I think it was Alan Holdsworth and Jimi Hendrix, and they were saying that like Jimi Hendrix, you would think he would be kind of the not too versed in theory, kind of dirty, just kind of rip it up guitar player. Like, but he was very schooled and had a lot of theory, where Alan Holdsworth, where was more kind of a refined player, didn't know much theory at all. So it's very odd, that the opposites were true in that. And I think a lot has to do with your ear and being original, and and also like a lot of the guitar solos that I'll put together, I'm whistling before I even play them. I hear it, and then I'll just start connecting the dots. And coming up with different phrasings, and then obviously in between those phrasings, you want to make it rock. So you want to put a little burst here and there. And then just kind of mold it all together.
Yeah, and let me ask you, like you mentioned "Smoke on the Water," which, like we said, that's one riff that a lot of guitar players always want to learn. Now, what was that like when you hear the song, and then once you're able to kind of master that riff? I mean, that must be hey, I can play this song. That's got to be a pretty great feeling.
Well, it was great that they let me play that riff first, because I think back, that was the first time I played like the power chord, like C5, D5, it was for me, playing acoustic, it was like, 4-finger chords all the time. So to plug in and then just hit 2 chords and hear this like monstrous guitar tone.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
It opened up the world for me.
It's amazing that song, 50 years later, is still so popular, not just by guitar players, but still being played on the radio. And you're obviously, I would imagine, a Ritchie Blackmore, at least Deep Purple fan. So I got to ask you, what do you think of what he's doing now, like with his wife, with the band Blackmore's Night? Because that obviously sounds nothing like what he did with Deep Purple. And I got to be honest with you, when I heard he's doing folk music, I wasn't really, I didn't really give it a fair listen. But then somebody sent me a CD. I said, what, I'm a Ritchie Blackmore fan. I'm going to check this out. And it's not Deep Purple. It's quite different. But I think if you're a Ritchie Blackmore fan, you can get into it.
I think no matter what type of musician you are, it's really cool to try to reach out in your parameters, and do different things. I would love to be able to do that at some point. Right now, I'm not ready, to kind of change my genre.
Of course,
I'm really feeling comfortable where we're at, and I want to, continue that kind of feel. But I mean, I have no bag. I mean, I wish I had the talent to do different things like that, and maybe I'll learn. Who knows?
Well, Ritchie Blackmore does what he does, and you do what you do. But that they're equally just as good. And like I said, you're off to a good start with this band because, like you said, the band has gone through a couple lineup changes. You're where you are with this lineup right now. These 5 tracks that you guys just released on Retribution, they're great sounding. And the best compliment I can give you guys is, like I said, you're not trying to sound like everybody else. You got your own thing going. And I would think, being that you're the guy who writes a lot of this stuff, this is your own original music. That's got to be the it's got to be the standard. That's got to be the goal. You're creating your own path, which like you're saying earlier, when people put on this music, this is your legacy. This is the legacy of you and your bandmates. So this is where you guys are in life, and that's you're making your own statement.
Yeah, and that's it. It's the band making the legacy. I may come up with a riff, but it wouldn't be the song that you heard without the input of all the guys. And I know a lot of that gets kind of fluffed under the carpet because I'm the last kind of original member. But and that's been, and not just this album. It was the same with Exit the Pain, where even though I had some guest musicians, I still like to sit back and let people kind of create their own thing, their own dynamic. And that's where Mike Ofka, the engineer, comes in. He takes a lot of stress off me, and I give him a lot of leash. He knows what kind of this band should sound like. So if we have a guest come in or something, I don't even need to be there. He knows what it needs to be, and he'll let those people, whoever's doing what part, what he feels is good and not, or maybe he can change it up to try it like this, and he works with them, and that's great. So when I come in, 90% of the work is done, and I just kind of put my thumb on it and say, yeah, man, it sounds great, or hey, can we try this? Or there was only one instance where we were doing something that I didn't really care for, but then he was able to adjust, and then we came up with something that made it onto the EP. So I think that's a huge thing to make sure everybody knows, is that it takes all the guys to get to the end point of that song. I can come up with a lick and a riff, but it wouldn't be the same without Scott's voice on it. It wouldn't be the same without Justin's drumming behind it, and it definitely wouldn't be the same, on the album or live without Charlie's bass behind it. And and that's really important. And
it's cool that you're the type of guy that can, you don't have that ego, that you can say that and realize that it takes everybody to, make the whole sound of a band. But I'd imagine, like you said, you're the founding member, the only original member. This is your baby, so to speak. You're the kind of you're the father of it. So I would imagine at some point you're kind of protective of it. You're like, well, hey guys, we
and I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing because when I first started the band and I got a hold of Jamie, that's one thing that we always called this. This is our baby. We always called it the baby. So whenever there would be an argument or dispute, we would end the dispute by saying one thing: does it benefit the baby, or does it hurt the baby? If it hurts the baby, then the answer is no.
And there's a certain logic within that, because like you said, you guys have your fan base, and fans expect a certain sound from the band. And with that being said, I got to ask, when somebody comes up with a riff or whatever, they bring in a song, and it's a little outside of the box of what Silk Nine does. Are you ever opposed to doing that, or you say, it sounds too different than what we're known for, guys? So, or do you give them a chance to kind of present the song?
Well, no. I mean, one of the rules that we have in the band is, we never trash or throw away, I should say, any song until we have at least 90% complete.
Okay.
So at that point, you can kind of tell, are we heading the right direction or not? Now, that doesn't mean that later down the road that song doesn't get dissected and becomes something else. Maybe down the road we come up with a verse that fits that chorus better than what we had on it. There's no rules in music. It doesn't say that has to stay together. You take all these ideas, and like you said, maybe that's our vault. And then you go back to that vault and you start listening, and you, hey, did you hear that? That would go good with this. And then you lay it down and see what happens.
And I think even just on the 5 tunes on Retribution, that's why there's such a kind of a diverse sound each track, and each song really does stand out on its own, because on each track, each member of the band is kind of they're putting their print on this, on each song. They're kind of bringing their influence into it. Whereas opposed, if you were the great dictator, just saying, hey, these are the songs I've written, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to play it my way, it would all sound the same.
It would all be very one-dimensional.
One-dimensional,
and that's not a good way to do. And you know what? The backside of that is, when you're performing live, how can Scotty convey how he's feeling about the songs if he's trying to sing how I felt? I mean, we work on lyrics together, but there's a certain feeling he has during the song, or a certain meaning that he's pulling from to convey that emotion to the fans or to whoever's watching. And he couldn't do that if I just said, "Hey, sing this. This is how I felt. You got to do this." It's just it's not very conducive.
And I would imagine that, like, when you guys go in the studio and you record together, like there probably been times where you've envisioned a song a certain way, but then he goes and puts his vocal track on, and you're like, hey, bud, man, that's not exactly how I envisioned the song, but man, you made it that much better.
Were you somewhere in our studio during our sessions? Because that song, I don't know, was that song.
Wow.
That song was never supposed to be even close to what it was. Was the melody there? Yeah, everything was there, but like the stop with the 5-part harmonies and the big chorus with all the harmonies was never supposed to be. But that was Scott's kind of vision, and I remember him stopping and he said, "Anthony," he goes, am I stepping all over your idea?" And I said, "Scott," I said, "just keep singing, man. Just keep singing."
Well, the reason I brought that up is, it's because I've had a lot of guys that I've interviewed tell me over the years that, that maybe the person I was talking to, they were a primary songwriter in the band, and they're like, it's a very hard thing because, you write the song and you're kind of got your vision of the song, and then you have somebody else come in and they're putting their vocals over your tune that you wrote, and so you're a little protective of that, and sometimes you have to just be willing to let them do their thing, and it makes it that much better of a song.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I said, is that it would become very one-dimensional if you have somebody come in and just do what you want them to do, exactly how you want them to do it, and never look out. Everybody has different ideas. I mean, everybody, even when Scott came in and just started singing, the lyrics to the song and like over the melody that I had, he was doing it different, but it was his style. So how can I tell him, don't sing it that way? It sounded great. It fit the song. It was his style. You got to let that go. You got to let him, everybody has to have their input. So I am protective of certain things. But if you're holding or standing true to, the body, and at the end of the day, as a whole, it's creating the message that you wanted, and it sounds great. I mean, how can you argue the point?
Well, Anthony, I could talk to you all night, and I know it's getting late where you are, but so I'd like to thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today. I want to let you know that I'm just discovering your band, like I said, with the new Retribution EP. I love every track on there, so I can't say enough great things about your band, Silk 9. I really urge people to check it out who haven't already had a chance to. And please keep my contact info, and I'll keep yours, because anytime you have anything at all to promote, I'd be more than happy to spread the word about you guys, because I think Silk 9 is one of those bands out there that not enough people know about, and we really need to do something to change that,
Well, great. You mind if I plug the website and hit our Facebook page? You mind if I did that?
No, not at all. And like I said, probably this will be going up sometime in March, but I will be sure to let Chip know once it gets posted, because I don't have an exact date it's going to be, but I'll be sure to, I can hit you up through your Facebook page.
Sure. The Facebook page is www.facebook.com/Silk9Rises.
Okay.
And if we can get everybody to go to that page, anytime you're on that page, I always lead people to a little private page that we have called our Silk 9 Concert Announcement. It's a private group. You get, there's better merch bundles for a better price. You get discount on tickets. You find out where we're going next, like our CD release party. All we sold out 70 VIPs in just, I think, a day and a half. Just on that little page before it even went out. It was sold out to the public, and only our private members got a chance to be with us. So it's a really cool private little thing where everybody gets to hang out with us, talk with us, and it's closed.
And I've always loved bands that are like really fan oriented. I mean, of course, bands put out merchandise because you guys are making profit off it. But I always loved bands like Kiss that just had a ton of merchandise, and they were so different than every other band out there. So I think it's really great that you guys do special events like that for your fans, and you have all this cool merchandise.
Well, that's it. And if you could lead some people to, even the RFLrecords.com website and have them pull down that Silk 9 merchandise, drop down and check out our bundles. And, all that does is help RFL, help us, and help us record more material.
And that's the whole reason we're doing this interview today is, like I said, to spread the love for the band and what you guys do. So, you give me a couple hours and I'll get on that. And like I said, I'll be in touch. So thanks so much, Anthony. And I'd love to do this again down the line when opportunity presents itself.
Sounds good. I'm always available. You can hit me up on Facebook to talk, and any which way you want to do it. Anytime you're available, I'm always up for talking. I could talk all night, as you can see. I never shut up.
Yeah, I have the same problem, but as you can see, but that's part of what I do. I'm really as much of a music fan as anybody. So I'm all a lot of people always tell me, oh, whenever you put up a review or something, a CD review or what, you always say how great it is. Well, because I choose to just promote what I love. I don't need to badmouth any band, because I'll tell you, you're talking to a guy who's not even a musician, so anybody that can, even strum a guitar, get up on stage and do what you guys do, I have all the respect in the world for,
Oh, man, thank you so much.
Yeah, you take care, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Have a good evening.